In this demonstration, I'm going to show you guys my approach to painting a transparent and reflective surface, a light bulb that's not lit, but has quite a bit of reflection bouncing off of it from the light and environment surrounding it. So I'm going to start off with an underpainting. I've already toned the surface. This is the Strathmore 400 series oil painting paper. I toned it with a diluted layer of raw umber, and I'm gonna just loosely draw on or paint on the light bulb shapes and reflections. So I'm just taking a liner brush. This one is from a brand called Black Swan, or technically the brand is Creative Mark. And the kind of brush is Black Swan. It's a round brush in size 1. You can find these at Jerry's Artarama. It's usually where I get them. So I'm going to start with the shape of the bulb. Now I'm not aiming to make this perfect by any means. I would just like to, I would like this to be a bit looser actually, just to have a better example of the way color and light works. Because I feel like if it's less detailed and more painterly but still looks like what you're going for, then mission accomplished. So I've actually never painted a light bulb in this way before, but I've painted many glass things before and lots of reflective things before, such as water. So I think we'll be okay. I guess what I'm struggling with is just getting the right shape down here. Just gonna go inward a little bit here and then also here. I'm actually going to make the background darker, so if this outline is too dark, just think of the lighter area as the actual outline. This is technically part of the background that I'm going in. So, let's see, interesting curve here. So I'm just going to put like a loose line, which will get painted over, which is where the point of the light bulb touching the surface is. So it's laying a little bit diagonally, just given the shape and whatnot. So I am just going to paint on this metal part of it, whatever it's called. So we're also kind of painting something metallic here as well. Not only glass and reflective, but there's going to be some metal parts to this as well. We'll see how that goes. It'll be interesting. So I'm gonna also include a grid with this. I'm not using one right now just because I didn't really feel like it, although I maybe should have, because this is kind of an awkward angle to paint, and I feel like I'm going to be doing a lot of correcting later, but that's okay. I feel like my light bulb's also a little bit on the skinny side, so maybe I should take some of that pigment away. Actually, I'm going to go in with a dry, clean brush, but first I must clean a brush. Or, no, I already have a clean one. Cool. So basically what I do is I just dip my brush into Gamsol paint thinner and then lightly wipe it on a paper towel so it's not like dripping on the painting, and then I just go over what I painted. The issue with canvas paper is that it doesn't pick up the pigment if you want to do this like little eraser trick. It doesn't actually pick up the pigment as well as something else would. For example, like if you were working with a wood panel and a gesso board, like you would still have some staining, but it would pick up a lot more than what we're getting here. Okay, so I'm gonna be just painting on some of the background. Might as well just move on to that for now. And I think I might actually need to just adjust how, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just have it be imperfect. Definitely a weird angle to paint from. It's throwing me off a little bit. So these shadows I'm putting down are going to get lighter as the, oh my gosh, wow, I just went all the way in there. As the paint thinner, the solvent evaporates, these colors are going to look a lot lighter than what you're seeing as when they're wet. So, okay. There's also some reflection going on here in this floor or surface, table, whatever it is. Some interesting reflections happening. So there'll be some gradients. We'll see how painterly I can get this without obsessing over detail. Notice how I've been avoiding this. Just kind of doing the background for now. I feel like if I get the values darker around, then painting the actual light bulb will be more fun for some reason. I'm actually not gonna paint much around this, which looks kind of awkward there, but I just want the shape of the light bulb to still be visible, and it's kind of hard to differentiate values when they're constantly changing as this dries, so. Okay. Let's see. Interestingly enough, the outline of the bulb in some places is actually quite dark. And then we've got another light bulb back here. So there's a light source there. And it's like on a stick, apparently. On a mount of some kind, I don't know. Yeah, okay, so let's continue. I'm gonna pick up a liner brush, again, the one I was just using. Going into my burnt umber, add a little bit of solvent there. And I'm gonna start on some of these shapes on the inside. So there's some weirdness going on, which again, I don't, just all the internal structures here. So we're gonna do that. I am not aiming to paint it super precisely, and that would be some very complicated things to have to detail. So we'll just wing that. See what happens. And someone here is going to be like, oh, that's not how a light bulb looks. That would not ever light up. It's all wrong. It's okay. I'm just painting these sticks on the inside of the light bulb. I don't know what they are. I mean, I know what they are, but like specifically, I don't know how each individual one of them, like what they do. I know in theory how light bulbs work, duh, but like, you know, I don't build them. Okay, so the values on this are actually going to be quite difficult, which is why I'm not going to go all out in making this an accurate value underpainting. I just want to get the main shapes down. So this was photographed just by the reflection in the light bulb. I can tell this was photographed with softbox lights because I have these big rectangular squares or rectangles, rectangular square, these big rectangles, and they're just reflected off the glass. So that's going to be our highlight right here, these big warped rectangles. Okay, so just paint around them a little bit. There's a highlight right here from this light that's reflecting off the surface. So this underpainting is really just not going to look very nice right now. This painting will make a lot more sense the further we get into it. Let's go with a little bit more shadow here. And also on the outline, painting a lot of reflective stuff this month. Lots of water. We did a bubble demo. Okay. There's a little bit of a light section being reflected off this outer round part here. So I'll just leave that like this. And then there's like I don't know what it is honestly, but there's like a bunch of grays in here. Just some gray tones, some gradients we'll have to paint. One right here. There's actually some warm tones in it as well from that light behind the light bulb reflecting. It's actually reflecting off the table, but you can see it through the glass in the light bulb, so the reflection on the table is like right behind it. So these are all fun things I like to think about when I'm painting something. I just observe the subject and try to analyze where the light source is, what the reflection is, what shadow is cast in what direction, and little bits of light within the shadows. I just like to think about all that stuff. I find it really fun. So just continuing on with this underpainting. That interesting light source is like right around here. I'm not making it too bright. And there's another weird shape right here, and then another softbox light being reflected here. This is a lot of stuff going on here. I originally saw this image and I thought, oh, that's easy. We can do a beginner tutorial with that. And then now I'm thinking like, oh, maybe not so much. I want to make more beginner catered content. And like in my eyes, I think this is actually not that bad for a beginner. Although there is a lot going on. If you follow a grid, and just take your time with it and don't rush, and you know, give it a few weeks even, I think totally doable. A beginner at oil painting, obviously, like if you already have drawing skills, like you can absolutely try this out in oils. I don't see why not. Okay, so there's a nice, lovely, weird gray highlight, or like light source being reflected on the side here. And then another one here. So this all just looks so strange without color. I might struggle to figure out what shapes are what. Just trying to darken up some values here. Okay. Just cover this here. I'm actually not going to paint that highlight there. It's not light enough for it to matter that much, and I can just paint it with color when it comes to that. But there's some darkness that kind of extends into the center here and sort of hugs this softbox reflection. And value-wise, what I did here actually ended up working out because I painted over it just slightly to where it wasn't super, super light and super, super dark. It's just like right where it needs to be. Total accident, but it worked out. Okay, and I also want to increase the distance between this little reflection and this part right here because I'm seeing more of a distance between those two things in the reference. Okay, trying to see what other really dark things I could paint. Oh, this little part here. Get some more solvent on my brush. I'm gonna make sure I have the angle of those things proper. And then I'm just gonna emphasize some of these dark shadows right underneath the bulb. And there's also some shadows that need to be darkened right here. They're not quite as dark right where the glass meets the surface. There's just like a little bit of a rounded, slightly lighter shadow right underneath it that goes like that. But then the light reflected off of the glass also reflects in here, so it's just like a very subtle shadow, not as intense as what's over here. So I'm just gonna try and get these shadow tones in here. And also this darker outline of the bulb here. Lots of round, shiny things. Okay. Doesn't look quite right yet, but that is okay. And then again, just to paint this again, I want to add on this really dark shadow here and also right at the top here. And just around this light reflection. That actually doesn't need to be that dark, so I'll just blend it out a little bit and it'll lighten as it dries. Okay. Kind of want to angle that way a bit more. All right, and then behind the bulb is like a very slight line just in the background. I don't even know if it's worth painting, to be honest, because it's just so far back there. It's so subtle, you barely even see it in the picture. Okay. Well, I do think that should have been angled a little bit more that way, which is fine. I can fix that up a little bit when I get to this part, so I'm not too worried about it, but I do see that little bit of error. That's okay. Let's see. Lastly, or not lastly, but for right now, I just want to touch up the background again. Oops, I picked up burnt sienna while I was doing that, which was an accident, but I just want to add some more shadow to the background here. Especially around here, because there's the edge on this side up here is all light. It's like a highlight, so that dark against it's going to help create the line of the light bulb. Although it is very hard to see with this underpainting right now in its current state anyway. Just gonna use more pigment. Help kind of create that shape a bit more. And just aggressively blend that outwards. Whoops, once again picked up some burnt sienna when I did not mean to. Okay, and then yeah, this random light bulb with a pole it's attached to going sideways back there. I guess I am going to paint that little shadow. And then just some of the reflection of the shadows down here. Don't want to go too crazy with it, because it's just really hard to tell at this stage in the painting, but I think this could be darker. And then if you want to, so you can just leave this be for several days and then come back to it, or you know, an hour or two. Honestly, however long you want. You don't have to do it all in one sitting. I'm doing it for demonstration's sake, just to give like an example and a little guide if you wanted to work on it on your own, like if you want to know which colors you could use for that purpose. But if you're just at home like painting this on your own, you could easily just wait however long and then go in with titanium white for highlights, which I'm gonna do. But something is blending with my white, muddying up the color. I'm not putting a lot of this on because I don't want my first color layer to blend with it. I just want to see a little bit more value, I guess, or just like a lighter value for the highlight parts, the lightest most parts. It's going to make it easier for me to see what I need to see in this painting. Okay, there's that, and a little bit of highlight action going on here. Adding some more medium to my brush so the paint flows smoothly. It also evaporates faster because titanium white dries slower than the other colors, and I don't want that for this painting. Okay, and then just so I have something to see, this is of course going to be painted over, as I mentioned. Put some highlights here in the metallic parts. A little bit. Okay, trying to think of what else I could do. So I'm just going to add a very diluted bit of titanium white here, and anywhere there's like a weird gray color, really. And it's interesting because when you put titanium white over something warm toned, it creates this weird illusion. It makes gray. So that's kind of what's happening here. Put a little bit of light reflection here. Oh, you can't really tell, it's not showing up. Let's get a little brighter part right there. Okay. And light source here. And kind of want to mix this actually, just to darken this up because it's way too light. And then some of the outline, or the outer edge. Okay. I think this is mostly where I want it to be. Not perfect. Doesn't have to be, but good enough. I'm just kind of going in a little bit more white just to, oh yeah, and then I could also just do a little bit of white in these areas for that weird reflection. I'm actually going to switch brushes to something bigger. Ooh, why won't you apply? It doesn't even show up. It's so diluted. Okay. So these light reflections are really just, you know, lining up with these softbox lights. So I just want to put that here so that I have it all established in place where it needs to be. Okay. All right, I think I can leave this and then continue with color. It's, you know, all the basics are where they need to be at least, and then whatever else needs to be fixed, I can always fix it while I paint or build on it, etc. So let's go in with colors. Get everything nice and clean. Getting lots of paint on my hands as per per usual.